Who'd have thought that one of the most forgettable Doctor Who antagonists ever created would turn out to be one of the best? A creature genetically engineered to absolve us of our sins that becomes the ultimate manifestation of our fears. But what exactly is it that makes the silence so terrifying? I think the Doctor said it best. As long as there's something in the corner of your eye, or creaking in your house, or breathing under your bed, or voices through the wall, the silence have ruled this world since the wheel and the fire, forever watching us, the ghosts of Earth. It's no wonder the silent is a species that both captivates and terrifies us. They combine some of the most terrifying supernatural phenomena into one species, from paranormal activities you just can't explain, that creaking of the floorboards when nobody's home, to demonic possession, as your very actions and behaviours are influenced by the whisperings of a creature hiding in plain sight. What makes the silence so terrifying is that even if they did exist, we'd never know they were there. But beyond the eeriness of their existence, I think there's a fundamental reason why the silence affects us so deeply, and it's related to the phenomena many horror icons have, where they often symbolise the cultural zeitgeist of that era, whether it's Godzilla's theme reflecting the impact of nuclear bomb and the rising fears of the Cold War in the 1950s, to films like Rosemary's Baby or The Exorcist reflecting the rise of Western fears of the occult and religious counterculture in the 60s and 70s. And I think the silence is an effective reflection of our own fears of the 21st century. From the tragedy of 9/11 sparking a surge in governmental surveillance, to the rise in technology and access to our privacy, never as a society have we been so engulfed by social media and information as we are today. I think the concept of the silence spawned from our growing fears as a technologically rife society. That's why the silence affects us so deeply. We live in a world where the shadowy figures can steal our identities, online whisperings can influence our thoughts and feelings, and ghosts can spy on us through metallic eyes. Whether consciously or not, we fear the shadowy figure stalking us just out of sight. We fear the invasion and violation of our privacy. And this is part of what makes the silence so effective. They prey on that fear, a fear so raw it sends shivers down our spines. But one of the reasons I love them so much as a concept is that they embody our most fertile fears just as much as they prey on our most ancient, our fear of the unknown. One of the best explanations I've ever seen for this was given by Professor Jerry Hogle when he spoke about Slender Man and theorised how this icon embodied our fears and preyed on the unknown so well. There's the implication that something is out there, and the viewer and the character are invited to project into that otherness all of their fears, and that is terribly effective. That's why the unseen is so fascinating. I think this is exactly what makes the silence so effective. We channel our fears onto the silence because they so effectively represent them. They're the perfect conduit. No matter what we do, no matter how many times we lay eyes upon them, we can never truly know they're there. Take a simple age-old saying like time flies. The silence instantly inverts its innocence if you ponder why time suddenly slipped away. Could it be because somewhere out there lurking is a silent? Every lost track of time, every moment that passes us by. What if every flittering moment in time a silent was there, stalking us just out of sight without us even knowing it? Every creation that harnesses the unknown has the power to make the everyday terrifying, because at its crux, that's what life is, a string of unknown potentiality. Is one in the room with you right now, in the same house, perhaps it's right behind you as we speak. And this element of the unknown is taken even further when you consider the prospect of these shadowy creatures lurking all around us. The very idea of their omnipresence moulding our society to their will messes with something humans crave, control over their own lives. Horror films often take advantage of this fear by placing an unstoppable force against an innocent family, just like in Hereditary. A family we perceive to be in complete control gradually realise they never had a chance of stopping the complete possession and destruction of their lives in the first place, as a demon slowly tears them apart. The very same thing is true for the silence. Not only on an intrapersonal scale, as they manipulate our everyday behaviour to suit their cause, but also on an interpersonal scale, as they puppet the leaders of our world to mould it. Their very existence places our own into question. Does anything we do have meaning? How much autonomy do we really have over our own beliefs and values? Or are we simply a product of the silence will? Are our very beliefs and values moulded by a nefarious interference of an alien race? Beyond the pain and suffering malicious villains can inflict, is there anything more terrifying than being nothing more than vessels for the silence to control? Are any of humanity's achievements their own? The eerie and elusive nature of the silence forces us to confront the very nature of our own meaning almost existentially. They pull on that thread that exists inside of us all, that questions our meaning in this world, whether anything we do ultimately matters, and whether we have any real autonomy over our own existence. Every one of these elements culminates in what was for me one of the most terrifying scenes in Doctor Who history. The moment Lightning reveals a frantic Amy Pond covered in marks of the silence, with no idea where she saw them or where they are. Only for her to turn around and face hundreds of them huddled against the ceiling in one giant terrifying cluster. It's a perfect metaphor for their own existence. There could be hundreds of them metres away and you wouldn't even know it. It sends the imagination flying. All the moments your heart would start to flutter out of nowhere. All the moments you'd wake up in the middle of the night with that feeling of dread. Every single unexplainable moment suddenly makes sense with the concept of silence. Just another reason they're so well designed. Then you've got their aesthetics, the inspiration for which stemmed from a chilling combination of Edvard Munch's 19th century painting The Scream, the Men in Black style suits, and the grey aliens popularised back in the mid 20th century. What's interesting about the Scream inspiration is that the painting itself is known to symbolise the anxiety of the human condition, an image spawned from the blood-red sky of Oslo that Edvard described as an infinite scream passing through nature. And when you consider the fact that the original inspiration for the concept of the silence is an image symbolising the anxiety of the human condition, you start to realise why we find them so terrifying in the first place. That distorted, slender figure, with the texture of their skin almost reflecting the surreal brushstrokes of the painting, the Scream's inspiration is what I think harbours so much of that fear factor. As for the Men in Black style suit, I think that grounds the silence by drawing from that mysterious but also brutal nature of the Men in Black, popularised in culture from the 1950s and beyond, as secret governmental agents tasked with covering up UFO sightings by any means necessary, ranging from harassment to memory wiping all the way to assassinations. I think it's this element of mysterious mixed with the nefarious nature of the Men in Black agents that really adds to the silence. It's weird to imagine how they'd look if their concept art had them wearing alien clothes or even clothing like the Church of the Silence, but I'm willing to bet it wouldn't have the same effect. It's this along with the grey alien inspiration with their grey skin and larger heads that really grounds the silence in realism by drawing from emotions we associate with these pop culture figures like the Men in Black agents and the grey aliens of the past. Take all that and combine it with the chilling clicking noises they make whenever they come into shot, and the notoriety as one of Doctor Who's best antagonists makes complete sense. It's lucky in a sense that the silence served the Church of the Silence in the breakaway Kavorian chapter, because given their elusive nature, combined with their sheer power to harness electrical sources and obliterate any life form at will, imagine what they could have achieved if they served a cause like the Daleks. Imagine if the Silence disbanded from their faith and followed their own path. Imagine how terrifying a bunch of lone Silence in this world would be. Left to their own devices, that's enough nightmare fuel for an entire series, let alone a single episode. I saw a great point on a Reddit post years ago when someone suggested that the Silence need their own blink, and I think that would have been the best and easily most terrifying introduction to them, where you have a Sally Sparrow style episode, or even one featuring the Doctor, but it's far more local, just them pitted against a single Silent with its own nefarious goal. It's probably too late seeing as we're so familiarised with them, but I think the Silence have always had more to give beyond serving the Church and the breakaway faith. I hope one day we see a version of the Silence that wants something far worse than to save the universe from war. But for now we're left with a terrifying reality of forever forgetting, an endless cycle of horror as we contemplate the possibility that something terrifying could be lurking out there, haunting us, hiding in plain sight, and we'd never truly know.